Newly obtained 911 call records have revealed a timeline that raises more questions than answers. At 5:48 p.m., just minutes after Tyrone Dro Davis Jr. was found on Archer Road, Lulu told first responders that he got out of the car and walked away. Not jumped, not fell, walked away. Within hours, that story changed to he jumped out at 25 to 30 miles per hour. But the most troubling detail, at 8:04 p.m., more than 2 hours after Tyrone was rushed to the hospital, Lulu was nowhere to be found. A social worker had to call law enforcement just to locate his family. Where was Lulu during those 2 hours? And why did her story change so quickly? Before we break down the CAD calls and what they expose, this is True Crime Unraveled. To everyone watching, commenting, and sharing, we see you. And to our super thanks gifters, you keep us going. Thank you. Now, let's open the records. To understand why these new records matter, we have to remember the context. From the beginning, Lulu has given multiple versions of what happened. First, she told the family that Tyrone fell at a gas station and bumped his head. Then she said he jumped out of the car. Then she said he stepped out and didn't look back. Her story has never been consistent. Rena Demps, Tyrone's mother, initially called Lulu a model girlfriend and told police he had a history of jumping out of vehicles. That contradicted Lulu's own statement that he had never done that during an argument. The Davis family was kept in the dark, excluded from the funeral and from key meetings. And the police closed the case as an accident, despite mounting evidence that the investigation was incomplete. Now, the 911 call logs add another layer of concern. At 5:48 p.m., just 2 minutes after the first 911 call, a dispatcher noted that the victim's girlfriend was on scene and said that he got out of the car 5 minutes ago and walked away. Chanae Jackson reads directly from the record. How is her story consistent? If at 5:48 she said he got out and walked away, but before they left the scene it changed to he jumped out going 25 or 30 miles per hour, her story changed almost immediately. The implication is clear. Lulu's initial statement did not involve a high-speed ejection. It involved a voluntary exit. So why did she change it? Chanae suggests it was because she needed the story to match his injuries, or the lack thereof. The CAD calls show that first responders initially saw no visible injuries. Only later did they find a little blood on the back of his head. If he had truly jumped from a moving vehicle at 25 miles per hour, there would have been widespread abrasions, road rash, and multiple injuries. The medical examiner later documented only blunt force trauma to the back of the head and minor abrasions. That inconsistency may have prompted Lulu to upgrade her story from walked away to jumped out. The CAD calls also reveal how GPD's own understanding of the incident shifted multiple times in a single evening. Initially, dispatchers classified it as a vehicle accident with injuries. That's why they were dispatched. But by 8:20 p.m., the classification was changed to a medical emergency. Why? Because the only visible injury was to the back of his head. That didn't match a vehicle accident. Then, at 10:23 p.m., after hospital staff reported that something was wrong, GPD reopened the case as an investigation. Not an accident, an investigation. Chanae asked the obvious question. If they thought it was a vehicle accident when they arrived, why didn't they secure the scene? If they changed it to a medical emergency because the injuries didn't match, why didn't they go back and secure it then? And when they reopened it as an investigation at 10:23 p.m., why still no scene security? Days later, the family went to Archer Road and found the pizza box, the wings, and other debris still scattered on the ground. The scene had never been secured. Evidence was never collected. Perhaps the most damning detail from the CAD calls is this. At 8:04 p.m., a social worker at Shands Hospital called law enforcement to ask for help locating Tyrone's family. He had been admitted under a trauma name, and no one had claimed him. More than 2 hours after he arrived at the hospital, Lulu was not there. Chanae is blunt. She did not follow the ambulance to the hospital and was not at the hospital at 8:04. Had she been anywhere in the vicinity, they would have been able to connect him to her. She was gone for more than 2 hours. Where did she go? The family has long suspected that Tyrone had 2 guns. One was found on his person by EMS. The other was never recovered. Chanae offers her own theory. She went and put up the other gun. It's speculation, but it raises a legitimate question. Why would the girlfriend of a man being rushed to the hospital in critical condition disappear for 2 hours? Chanae also addresses a persistent rumor. Some claim that Lulu took and passed a lie detector test. GPD's own letter to Chanae confirmed that no lie detector was ever administered. Why take the time to lie and say a lie detector was done? If you believe she's innocent, the truth speaks for itself. Spreading false information about a polygraph only adds to the confusion and suggests a deliberate effort to shape public perception. The CAD calls show that GPD treated this as a potential vehicle accident from the moment they were dispatched. Yet they never pulled the event data recorder, the black box, from Lulu's vehicle. The EDR would have shown speed, braking patterns, and whether the door was open while the car was in motion. Chanae is incredulous. If you believe her story, that's fine. But why not pull the EDR to verify? Believe but verify. That's what an investigation is supposed to do. Without that data, the official conclusion that Tyrone jumped at 25 miles per hour is based solely on Lulu's word, a word that changed within minutes of the incident. The CAD calls also highlight a fundamental contradiction. Lulu told police that Tyrone had never jumped out of a car during an argument, but Rena Demps told law enforcement that he had a history of doing exactly that. Who is telling the truth? If Rena is correct, then Lulu's statement is false. If Lulu is correct, then Rena is either mistaken or deliberately misleading. Either way, the inconsistency should have been investigated further. Chanae also points out that the rift between the families started with Rena. Phone records show Rena texting Lulu after the incident, telling her not to give any of Tyrone's belongings to his father's side of the family. That, combined with Rena's failure to share information with the Davis family, created the divide. Chanae does not hold back her frustration. She says that Dro's mother failed him by not pushing for answers, by aligning with Lulu, and by isolating the father's family. And she says Lulu failed him by leaving the scene, changing her story, and disappearing for 2 hours. But she reserves her harshest criticism for law enforcement. They didn't even try. They didn't do the basics. The police report looks bad. This is corruption and incompetence. She notes that the police ruled it an accident only because they had no evidence of criminality. But as she has argued before, absence of evidence is not evidence of an accident. The proper classification should have been undetermined. Chanae lays out the legal case that could have been made. Even if Lulu's story were accepted, she left the scene of an incident where a death occurred. Under Florida law, that is a criminal offense. Additionally, criminal negligence and second-degree manslaughter apply when a person's reckless disregard for human life leads to death. Driving while arguing, failing to stop when a passenger opens the door, and then driving away. All of that could constitute reckless disregard. She also reminds viewers that the initial story the family was told, that Tyrone fell at a gas station, never appeared in any police report. That story came from Rena, but it was never documented by law enforcement. Now let's step back and ask the hard questions. If Lulu's first words on the scene were, "He got out and walked away," why did she later change it to "he jumped"? Was she trying to explain injuries she didn't anticipate? Or was she simply panicking? If the police believed it was a vehicle accident, why didn't they secure the scene? If they changed it to a medical emergency, why didn't they go back? If they reopened an investigation at 10:23 p.m., why did they still leave the pizza box on the road for days? Where was Lulu for those 2 hours after Tyrone was admitted? Did she go somewhere to hide something? Or was she simply in shock and unable to function? The CAD calls don't answer that, but they prove she wasn't at the hospital. Why did someone claim a lie detector test was taken when it wasn't? Was that an honest mistake or an intentional deception? And why didn't GPD pull the black box? Even if they believed Lulu, verification is standard procedure. Its absence is a glaring omission. The contradictions between Lulu and Rena remain unresolved. One of them is not telling the truth. And the family rift that began with Rena's decision to withhold information from the Davis family only deepens the mystery. Finally, if a mother can lose 3 sons and still not fight for justice for the last one, what does that say about her relationship with the truth? Or is she simply too broken to fight? We don't have answers, but the CAD calls have given us new questions. And the family is not backing down. This is true Crime Unraveled. The 911 logs are public. The timeline is clear. The gaps are undeniable. Share this video. Keep demanding a thorough investigation. And drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. Justice for Dro.
That information. And so today what I'm sharing is the CAD calls. And so those are the calls that actually come into 911. So some of the delay was that they sent the actual list. We had to get someone to review the list to see what calls were actually relevant. The way that I structured the request is a bit different. And I did that because I wanted to see if there's anything else that came in after the initial calls so that you can get a full picture of the things that happened and took place. So us doing it this particular way, we ended up getting 4 calls that are actually relevant. So right now, I'm going to read you the summary. So like when they're calling to 911, the stuff that the 911 operators key into the system. But we're still actually, now that we are aware of which ones, the family's now going to go back and get the 4 calls that we want. But we had to do it that way so that they wouldn't be charged for calls that they did not need. So I want to name this because there's so much that is actually being paid for. So like even when it comes to the time for the neurosurgeon to write the letter, that's a significant amount of time that has to be paid for. People fail to realize that because the letter from the neurosurgeon has to be written and it's outside of the hours in his care, the neurosurgeon has to be compensated for his time. You can go look and see what neurosurgeons cost. The cost, I'm glad that there's a new update that with some additional things like the PI will be coming with his next report. And that's being paid for. So like we stated, the stuff that we're waiting on from GPD had to be paid for. So now the CAD calls had to be paid for. And it's so interesting because it keeps being brought up about, oh, this family took the money, did this, that, and the other. And what they're doing is they took the money that was raised, they paid for the stuff, and then from there, they've been continually paying for stuff out of their pockets. So what's interesting that stands out when we read these calls is that there were 4 calls that actually came in. I'm so frustrated to the point I had to ask the family member that I talked to, how are they feeling once they read these reports? And like I said, I'm going to keep it short. Because when you're looking at the CAD calls, you're looking at the user ID for the operator who keyed it in. You get the time frames. You get actually what was documented and what was captured. And you know, I've told you all multiple times that we do things this particular way because it's the only way to get a full picture of everything that's happened. When you got the stuff from law enforcement, there's one puzzle piece. When we got records from the Emmy, there was other puzzle pieces. When we got information from fire and rescue, there were other puzzle pieces. And as you can see, it's a lot of agencies that's not good with their goddamn documentation. I'm in awe at the puzzle pieces. I'm in awe that how this family has been gaslit to make them believe that they are overthinking things and asking questions that they should not be asking, when literally they have been right every single time to ask the questions that they have been asking. And mind you, I knew it was going to be bad, but this shit has been worse than what we anticipated. It has been worse. and I can't make sense of it. So I ain't gonna hold y'all because I got a meeting I got to get on. So the first call came in at 5:46, and then it went through, it said multi-agency incident, which went through fire rescue first. So then another one came in at almost the same time, just a few seconds later. And they let it know it was debris, because that's what they thought it was on Southwest Archer Road, blocking the eastbound lane under State Road 93 overpass. So then there was a duplicate call that came in. So it'll be my assumption that it's the one witness in the black vehicle, the two witnesses, the husbands and wife. So that call came in and said that there was a male that advised the subject was awake but not responsive. Then a third call came in that was in reference to the same thing. So these calls came in literally, 3 of them within a minute of each other. They advised, we're still at 5:47, that a fourth call came in, and the person just rolled by and saw that they assumed that it was a vehicle versus pedestrian because they saw the black car. But when you go down further, what happened is the black car was there to make sure that no vehicles were actually able to hit Dro. So this is documented in the CAD calls in real time. And the person that rode by and saw the black vehicle actually described it as a black 4-door sedan. And I want to state that because people kept stating that there was a red vehicle, but the CAD call states that the vehicle that they saw was a black 4-door sedan. Like this is not people trying to figure it out or people trying to remember. This is what happened in real time. He was found at 5:46, and at 5:47, 4 calls came in within a minute of each other. So in real time. So then you read further down, they generate a case number and an incident report number. So when, and mind you, they're thinking maybe it's a vehicle. They hit the pedestrian on a bicycle, hitting the bicycle riding. So this is again at 5:47 because now they're dispatching this call out to other people. I want to state this because of how GPD should have secured the scene, because each caller interaction, they thought it was an accident. So literally, how is it that you get to a scene and don't secure a scene when you went to the scene believing that it was an accident? And which is so strange to me, because when we met with GPD and asked them why they didn't secure the scene, they said that they didn't think it was a reason to. The reason to is because the call that came in said it was an accident. But we're going to keep going because it gets better. So then as you read further down, they state that the second caller who stated that they were on the scene, again, they stated that they didn't know. They just thought that they thought that it was a vehicle involved. The assumption that it was one vehicle involved. And they believed that that was a passenger car involved. Now, this is still at 5:47. Then they're talking to the person on the phone, and they say, yes, there's some injury, but they don't know what it is. It just says, yes, the male said that he is hurt. They say one person is injured, and there are no vehicles that are on fire. There is no one that is trapped or pinned. So these are all of the questions that the CAD person is actually asking. As they keep going, the caller says they advised he had just drove by and saw a pedestrian on the ground and a car stopped with him, which was the witness that was in the black car holding everything down. The caller that was the second party that was on the scene says, again, they thought it was a vehicle versus a pedestrian. How did law enforcement get there and not secure the scene? And being the first thing, I don't know. But we're going to keep going. And so it's repetition, which the same thing that is happening each call. So then they're getting additional information about the subject that is here. Now, mind you, just 2 minutes later, we're talking about at 5:48, they advise that the subject's girlfriend is there and say he got out of the car 5 minutes ago and walked away. How is her story consistent if the story at 5:48 when he was first discovered is that he got out of the car 5 minutes ago and walked away? How is the story consistent that before they left the scene, it changed till he jumped? So it went from he walked, got out of a car and walked away till he jumped out of a car going 25 or 30 miles per hour. Her story changed almost immediately. And I'm inclined to believe that her story changed because she needed the story to match his injuries or the lack thereof. And the reason I want to state that is I want to keep going. As we read further down, they confirm that the patient is breathing but unconscious. They confirm the patient just passed out, thanks from possible pain. Patient is still breathing, has a pulse, and is in recovery position. So they keep going. They're talking to the same subject. So you go down to the next person asking the same questions. So then they state again. Now, this is at 1546. They believe it's changed now. The subject fell out of a moving vehicle and lost consciousness. And at the first, the EMS stated that they did not think that he needed a trauma alert because they don't see anything life-threatening for now, but still transporting. That was at 554. By 556, they were calling a trauma alert. I want to be very clear about them calling this trauma alert because I just told you they didn't see any injuries. I want to state this because they argued us up and down that he was beaten. They have argued us up and down that he was attacked. And all his injuries did match him jumping out of a car. How is that when it's documented in real time? They did not see any injuries that were visible. When I go a little bit further, they did find a little blood in the head, and they saw an injury in the back of the head. That is it. Again, the next person said they got there, they're not sure if he fell in the road. Girlfriend is here for him and advised 5 minutes ago he got out of the car and started walking. They're still working on it. So you read further down in the report. This is where so mind you, they discovered that the gun is on him in the ambulance. So maybe that's where the confusion is with the gun. When I go further down at 8:20, they changed it from a vehicle accident with injuries to a medical emergency. How? But we're going to still keep going. And maybe because they changed it from a vehicle accident with injuries, because the only injury he had was to the back of the head. So that does not meet him jumping out of a vehicle at 25 miles per hour. But what happened is when Officer Porter went back to the hospital at 10 something that night, at 10:13 to be exact, they reopened the case because of the information that they got from the hospital. Why the fuck are we debating if he jumped out of a car when literally the girlfriend said he got out of the car and walked away? And literally, the reason that they switched it from vehicle accident to medical emergency because the only injury he had was to the back of the damn head. Literally, they went to reopen this case because the hospital told him something was wrong. You can't make this shit up. So then I want to go to a second report. So mind you, I stated the way that we did the records request is I didn't just want the reports that were at the time. I wanted supplemental and follow-up reports, which a lot of people don't know what to go for. And I'm glad I did that. Because when you go and do that, because this was a report, let me see when it was written, because it was after the time. So this was a separate call that went in at 8:02 that night. And the reason that this was in is labeled a follow-up investigation is because the social worker at Shands had to call communications to see they got a patient that was involved in this accident or whatever. They didn't know what it was at the time earlier. And they want to know if law enforcement could look up the emergency contact information for the patient because the social worker needs to get in touch with the family. This was what at 8:04. He went to the hospital and got there by 5:57. And by at 8:04, he still didn't have any family there. So they had to call law enforcement. I want to name this because every time we read y'all something, like we read y'all a police report. And when we stated that she was not there, oh no, she was there. Oh, you're lying. This is documented in real time. So again, as I stated before, because I might tell you a joke, but I will never tell you a lie. She did not follow the ambulance to the hospital and was not at the hospital at 8:04. And let me help you all who might say, well, oh, she was there, she probably left. The way that it works is if she would have came in with them, even as they're getting him situated with trauma, there is a person that with admissions or with fire rescue that will let them know family is over such and such, and this is where you find family. So I want to be very, very clear. Had she been anywhere in the vicinity when he got to the hospital, even with him coming in as a John Doe, they would have been able to connect him. They would have been able to connect him with her. I don't care what nobody say. My theory is, like the family said he had 2 guns, she went and put up one. Nobody can't sell me nothing else because that's what makes sense in this particular moment. Why is it that you saw your boyfriend, the love of your life, being rushed to the hospital unconscious? And mind you, because you said he got out of a car and walked, so it'd be even stranger. And you left and you was disappeared for more than 2 hours? I don't even know when you got there. I just know 2 hours later you weren't there, that the social worker had to figure out how they can get in touch with his family. And y'all want to tell me I'm the problem? Y'all want to say the family is the problem and they should give it up? Y'all want to say it was a thorough investigation? It was not. It was not. It was not. This is documented in real time. I don't care what nobody's opinion is. I don't care how anybody try to change the story. That is the reason that I explained to this family, the way we're going to get to the bottom of it is we're going to get everything that they got. We're going to see everything that law enforcement looked at. We're going to look at all the records that they got and see how they came up with this. And we said, if we got all the same information that they got, and when we laid it out in front of us, it looked like an accident, they would accept an accident. The family was clear in that meeting. If we look at everything that you got, and we could tell that you all did a thorough investigation, there would be nothing that we said. They made it clear over and over. We don't want you to falsify or create an investigation. We just want a thorough investigation to be done. They said we didn't want you to go make up some charges. We just want justice to be served. And what I'm stating to you all very clearly is, it is clear that justice has not been served. And it is clear that they didn't even try. How do you go from you thought it was a vehicle accident, and the people did too because they didn't know, till they changed it to a medical emergency because he didn't have enough injuries for it to even be that. But outside of that, it was called in as a vehicle accident. So how did you not secure the scene? Outside of that, when they changed it to a medical emergency, at 10 something that night, they changed it back to a vehicle accident. Why did they not go back out to that scene and secure it? Why did they not? We know they didn't, because the family went there 2 days later and everything was still there. Everything. This is not what we made up. This is not what somebody's trying to guess and see. The report documented in real time that was keyed in, and nobody knew anybody was going to blow this up, was documented that the social worker called at 804, was documented the only injury he had was to the back of the head, was documented that the girlfriend said he got out of the car and walked away 5 minutes ago. How? If that is documented at 5:48, law enforcement telling us, well, she told us he jumped out of a car going 25 miles per hour, and her story was consistent, when it literally changed. It literally changed before his ass got to the hospital. Her story changed before they got him on the stretcher and got him where he was going. How? And it pissed me off because it took them weeks to respond to the last letter that I sent them. And I haven't responded yet because now I got to sit down and go line by line and show how Captain Hallett took the time to respond to my letter without responding to my letter. Because literally she talked all the way around all the shit that we asked and stated directly. The only thing she responded to directly in the letter that she sent me was that no lie detector was done. And she made that very clear that no lie detector was done. And then now I got the question, why take the time to lie and say a lie detector was done if y'all believe that she's innocent? You ain't got to lie on her behalf. The truth speaks on its own. Very clearly, in the letter, she stated they didn't pull the black box because they didn't see a reason to. How? When on this CAD call, they thought it was an accident. But outside of that, how, when 10 something that night, y'all reopened it as an accident? How did you not think to pull the black box? And it was reopened as an accident because the hospital said that it wasn't a medical emergency after they did further tests. So while the hospital might have thought it was at first because they didn't have enough injuries, the hospital stated something was wrong after further tests. And they didn't reopen it as an accident. They opened up an investigation. So let me be clear. When they reopened it, they didn't open it up as an accident. They opened an investigation at 10:23. Yes. And if somebody say, why the hell did they lie about a damn lie detector when your son was murdered? Why do they want us to believe? I have no idea. And I think I'm so frustrated because everything that I have shared is literally what is there. And like, even when they dropped the police report, and they was like, all they did was read the bad parts. No. If you read the police report in totality is what I did, it looks bad. Stop nitpicking bits and pieces and trying to spew the narrative. When you lay it all out, it looks just as bad as because it's bad. This should have been, if it was a true accident, it should have been cut and dry. You shouldn't have to go and call the police and say, can you read me the witness statement so I can know what to tell the family? You should already know what to tell the family. And you did that the same night. Then what's so strange to me is now I know you went at the hospital at 8 something. So when did you come across the police officer? Did they just happen to be there? Then at that time, that's when you stated that. So mind you, your dude laying up unconscious and you worried about what the witness statement is instead of your dude. I might want to slap my dude tomorrow. I might want to slap him in 5 minutes. I assure you, if he's laying in a hospital bed unconscious, I'm going to be concerned. I can't think about nothing else but that. I assure you. Like, the fact that people are not even just invoking common sense in this particular scenario, the way y'all done gaslit these people and then drag them to hell and back is beyond me. This shit need to be studied. And even with law enforcement, the way they have sat and they know that they didn't even try. Like, they didn't even do the basics. The fact that the captain responded to my letter and ignored that Florida Highway Patrol laid out what should have happened, it didn't happen. Like, it's so wild to me. And then even the fact that you said, then even with the EDR, because she said there was no signs of a crash. We don't know that. We just know about what you said. But even with the EDR, with certain braking patterns, they don't need a crash. You still should have pulled it to rule out. So if you believed her story, I'm okay with you believing the story, but why not pull the EDR to verify? Believe and verify. And that's what an investigation is supposed to do. Believe, but verify. The deal is you went out of your way. And then they said, as mom said, she's such a loving girlfriend, we don't see. But the evidence supports that something happened. And the evidence supports that something was not him jumping out of a moving car. That's what the evidence say. That's not Chanae's opinion. That's not the family's opinion. That's not Sally Jack Sue's opinion. The evidence clearly states something happened when they left Papa John's that cost him his life. The evidence also states that whatever happened to cost him his life, that Lulu has something to do with it or knows the actual truth and she is covering it up. And that's not an accusation. That's what it is. And the way that we know that is because her story has changed multiple times. The way that we know this is because she has benefited from all of the chaos that has been sown. The way that we know this is the proof is in the pudding. 2 people ended up in Alachua County and only 1 left here. And the one person that knows what happened has not been honest, has not been upfront, and literally has gaslit everybody. And this is the same person that in the police report that I read, that's why we're waiting on her 4-hour interview, she stated he don't have a history of mental health illness, but now all of a sudden he jumped out of a car. This is the person who stated that he jumped out of the car because he was so upset about his grandfather. But in the same breath, she said he don't have a history of that. He's not done it. This is like, I can't make sense of none of it. And even the girlfriend, who was the last person on the car, is adamant he ain't never jumped out no damn car because he's upset. But his mama turned around and said that he did. Help me to understand. Help me. And then what is so wild about it is everybody's talking about a rift between the families. I'm reading a police report that states that the rift between the families started with the mom. The rift started when they downloaded the phone records of Lulu and the mom said, don't give his family who's close to his stuff. The rift started when literally I'm talking to law enforcement who told me that they told the mom all this stuff and the mom had told the dad. And y'all motherfuckers got on here and said she shouldn't tell them. First of all, they were close before then, so why wouldn't she? But even if they wouldn't, you mean to tell me that y'all think it would be justified not to share what you know with the father of your goddamn child? That you done lost? Y'all done lost y'all ever-loving rabbit-ass minds. And then when somebody points out the ridiculousness in this, I ain't got two words to say to a daddy and one of my children. But if I got to be cordial enough because one of my kids lost their life, I'm going to do that for the sake of my children. It just makes it worse that they had a relationship and then all of a sudden, and I'm not going by what the family says. I was at GPD when the lieutenant stated that the mom said they had a close relationship until this happened. I'm not going by what even the family say. When I say the medical examiner had questions, I'm going by the records and the email sent by the medical examiner. That's the reason that we go with facts. That's the reason that we look at the evidence. That's the reason you ain't heard me introduce nothing that I could not prove or verify or validate, because I ain't got that. Exactly. They say you don't want the truth. You want fabricated items now because what's taking so long? If they knew they didn't F up, then that paperwork should have been sent once it was paid for. You better say that. You better preach a whole sermon or make this make sense. We done took forever to get this stuff, and as soon as we finally get it, then all of a sudden everybody else get it at the same time to sow confusion. How is it that it's a delay for everything? But then once we get it, now all of a sudden, all the information flying out everywhere. How is it that you're going to make sure, and mind you, let me help y'all. And let me remind you of something. When I got a response from the records person, he stated clearly in the email that they pushed our records request forward ahead of a whole bunch of other people's records requests. So if you push it for a whole other people's records requests, how other people get the same records we did at the same time? Make that make sense. And mind you, our request went in before because people didn't even know what to ask for until I started posting what a records request should actually look like. I'm going to leave y'all with that. But I wanted to make sure to give it that update. And like I said, this is a marathon. And it's so frustrating. Like I said, when I talk to the family member who I talk to about this, because it's so triggering. It's so triggering because you can't even fully lean into your grief, because not only did you lose somebody that you love, but to watch how a whole system failed him, to watch how his mom has failed him, to watch how he left with the person that he loved and you feel like they failed him. And that's just speaking facts. That's just speaking facts. And then people can say, well, everybody, do we want to move forward? I want to be clear when I leave here, it's personal for me because I was a whole banker, bank manager, real estate agent, and everything else till they pulled my son at that car at gunpoint in less than 3 minutes. The sheriff did that. My whole trajectory in my life changed by my son. I took a whole sheriff to war by mine. My whole, the path I'm on now is because about somebody playing about my son. I would never fathom the thought of losing my son. And I'm just like, rest in peace, and I don't need no justice. And the fact that there are moms who, I know a woman right now in Tampa, her son was killed 20 years ago. And she fight and advocate, and she fought for 16 years until the officer that killed her son actually was prosecuted. So for me, maybe being in the circles that we are in, where I am now, and I'll stay where I am when I get back. We got moms here that start a whole organizations for incarcerated sons. We got moms here that start a whole organizations because they got kids with disabilities, and they wanted systems and structural change. Them the kind of moms that I know and understand. To accept that there's been no justice for your child. And mind you, to accept it when other people are fighting for it. I might be able to accept it when you feel like you're alone and nobody fighting for it. But the fact that people are fighting for it is the thing that blows my mind, because I get that we can't get justice. And I'll tell you this, there's nothing that I can do for a family that's not fighting for themselves, because it's minimized. It's so many spaces that they can't get in, and there's so many people you can't hold accountable without the family. That's why things are hindered. But when a family is fighting for your child, I will never understand that. If you didn't have that, I'll be like, stay off of it, leave it alone. I get it, because it feels hopeless and helpless because you're by yourself. But the fact that the family is fighting you or not, I can't. And this is Chanae's opinion. I don't care about nobody else's. I'm telling you how upset I am reading this in real time, knowing that law enforcement had these same pieces of paper and the decisions that they made and that they came up with, because they don't make sense. I won't understand it. They made these decisions with this information. Ain't no way in holy hell that they made these decisions. And mind you, I'm going to say this before I go. They said it was an accident because they didn't have evidence to prove criminality. How the fuck? Because you damn sure didn't have evidence to prove that it was an accident. And mind you, didn't want to debate with us about whether it should be undetermined. If we gonna rule it anything, let's just make sure it's right on paper. Just make exactly crashing out by mine. We're gonna make sure it's right on paper. To accept that. And they keep saying, well, I believe what the medical examiner said. But what the medical examiner said is multiple blunt force trauma to the head. It's impossible to have an accident and be multiple blunt force trauma to the head. And what they said is that it is from a moving car. That didn't come from the medical examiner. That came from law enforcement. From falling from a moving car. On this paper, Lulu said he got out of the car and walked. And I'm here to tell you, I can go back and read the email where the police officer said that Lulu said he got out of a car going 25 miles per hour. I bet you that if the police officer would have emailed the medical examiner those emails and said the girlfriend would have said he got out and walked, that they wouldn't have put that on the report because it came from the police. It didn't come from the medical examiner. So yes, believe the medical examiner, and what the medical examiner said was multiple blunt force trauma to the head. And the second part of that is what law enforcement said. And law enforcement has made it clear they didn't give a damn because nothing about anything that we have seen has stated that this was an accident. It has stated everything but. What it has stated is that y'all didn't even try. What it has stated is that y'all turned y'all head at every corner. What it has stated is that y'all went out of your way to make sure that he did not have justice. And we're going to go out of our way to make sure that that don't stay. And one of the things that the family has shown to you, because then also too, that they want, and I did this on purpose, they wanted to cite, because I started with two statutes. One was criminal negligence, and the other was involuntary manslaughter. So what they failed to realize is, I know the law like they do. So when I respond to Captain Hallett, even outside of that, she left the scene of a crash where death occurred. That's a criminal offense. If we go by the lie that was told that he jumped out of a car going 25 miles per hour, that is leaving the scene of a crash where death resulting in death. That is a charge. So if we take the lie that was told, she should have been charged. So we're gonna go with your narrative. And so I want to go back. So by her narrative, it fits the statute. So why she ain't been charged? And it fits every element. Oh, yeah. And mind you, we don't even know if the fall at the gas station was legit because the fall at the gas station is what the mom says she said. So we don't even know if the mom just came up with that. Because I will state, and none of their actual reports, she stated that. That was just what the mom stated, is that she fell at the gas station. That she said he fell at the gas station. From the police reports and the CAT reports, and mind you, and remember, I read in the police reports, she stated that she was going faster than he must have realized. But here, clearly, she said he got out of the car and he walked away. And she didn't look, let me be clear, and she didn't look back because she didn't want to be hit by any of the vehicles that were coming. There were no vehicles coming. And when we pointed out to law enforcement how that didn't make sense, they was looking at us like a deer in headlights. I kid you not. Again, and I'm going to center this. This family is clear. Had it been a thorough investigation, they would have came up with this. It would have been no harm, no foul. They were clear that once they got this information, if this information supported the findings of an accident, they would have left well enough alone. If you have come up with everything that I have read and released, everything that the research team has shared, and you still came up with that something, they say something sour in the milk, or whatever that shit is, then you the problem. It is so crystal clear. This is literally 1 + 1 = 2. It is absolutely given corruption. It is literally a corruption and incompetence. Corruption and incompetence. They had to go in the same day. It went from a vehicle versus pedestrian to a medical emergency to an investigation. That was all in a 4-hour time frame. That was all in a 4-hour time frame. So the same day they knew that this was supposed to be an investigation. The same day they knew they were supposed to secure the scene and they did not. The same day. The same day. The same, like, I can't process what I keep coming across. The way these people that sat up here and argued us down that this girl was at the hospital. And mind you, I have seen the family be gaslit. And oh, y'all just lying on that girl. Or, oh, y'all just made it up. And mind you, being clear, the family was only relaying the information that they were given. Because that's all they had. So all they could do was go by what they were given. And as I shared with them, we're going to figure it out. By the information they were given, it was accurate. Y'all know she was there. She was not. She was not. At 8:04, that was 2 hours. She had not been there. So even if she'd made a quick stop and they was getting him situated, she would have asked and they would have been able to tell her where a trauma patient was. She wasn't there. And mind you, I don't know when she got there. I just know she wasn't there at 8:04. And the reason we know that, because even if she had left, the charge nurse, I'm telling you, they would document in the notes. Family member was here and left. They like, it happens all the time. All the time. They would have said somebody was in the lobby. You're going to check like, that's what they do. In the trauma unit, there's a waiting room for you to go to. If she would have went to the ER and said they had somebody rushed by trauma, they would have sent her from the ER to trauma. Like, this is what the hospital does. So don't sit and tell me, well, oh, she could have got lost. That ain't how that worked. So even without his name, if she just would have described that he came in by ambulance, he wouldn't know. They would have said it. You know how I know? Because I used to work at UF Health. You know how I know? Because that's why it's a trauma hospital. And that's like, it's a process. Like, come on. Like, let's be real. I had already told you, I knew she didn't follow him, because she would, even when they say, well, she had to go in another part, had she followed him, it wouldn't have been no confusion, because the way the hospital is set up, you can see where the goddamn ambulance is going. It's out in the open. So she would have been able to park and see where the ambulance went. She was not there. Now you got to ask yourself, how this happened to your man and you was not there? Not only was you not there, you weren't there for hours. Where the fuck were you? That's the question that I got. And because we didn't pull anything, we don't know. Because we downloaded the phone, which they could, because I'm waiting to see. And mind you, the phone stuff ain't on there. I want to see if they pulled the GPS, because I would like to know when she went, when she left the hospital. In the police report, they said that the phone that she provided the Dros wasn't the one that was on the scene. Why would you provide a phone that wasn't on the scene? How does that even make sense? Because to me, the phone that you had on the scene would be the phone I would have been communicating with you on. But then when we asked that question, they was looking at us like we was crazy. I kid you not. This shit was wild as fuck. I got to go to my 8 o'clock meeting, but I wanted to make sure that you all were aware of where we are. And again, when some next stuff come in, you'll be aware of that as well.